Before the official HOA meeting even began, my personal hell arrived like an uninvited guest, disdain wrapped in a navy blazer and punctuated with aggressively pleated khakis. Richard Dick Kensington III, or simply Dick to everyone who'd endured the overwhelming force of his personality, self-importantly introduced himself like it was the first time anyone had heard his name. His presence screamed something akin to decay. A man who peaked in high school, embodying every alarming stereotype of neighborhood watchdogs. He had the permanent sneer of a person who'd just caught a whiff of rotten eggs. And the voice, oh, that voice, could make milk curdle. Unfortunately, he was heading straight in my direction, and I could practically feel the weight of his judgment pressing down like a cloud of unrelenting dread. "Ah, Mr. Peterson," he said, his formality dripping with condescension as if we were standing in court rather than my backyard, which flaunted a sleek, modern swimming pool that I'd spent months designing. "I trust you're enjoying your aquatic amenity." "A pool, Dick. It's a pool," I replied, keeping my voice casually neutral. He sniffed, a sound brimming with disapproval, and perhaps a twinge of jealousy. "Well, I'm afraid I have some concerning news regarding said amenity." He paused, drawing out the moment for maximum theatricality, as if he held the fate of the world in a manila folder rather than a petty complaint about my swimming pool. "The board has received numerous complaints about the aesthetic incompatibility of your pool with the overall character of Sunridge Estates." Aesthetic incompatibility. I blinked, trying and failing to suppress my incredulity. "Indeed," he responded, puffing himself up like a peacock that's just spotted a rival. "It's modern, excessively so. It simply doesn't conform." The word conform tasted sour in my mouth. Conformity was Dick Kensington's highest ideal, a concept delivered with a self-satisfied grin that suggested he relished using his position to rain on anyone's parade. His critiques only deepened my outrage. The very idea that my pool, a sanctuary, a place for laughter and sun-soaked afternoons, was a threat to anyone's property values was, to me, laughable. I glanced around the room, searching for a sympathetic face, hoping for a flicker of solidarity from the other residents. Instead, I found a sea of beige and khaki, disinterested bystanders rendered spineless under the weight of Dick's petty authority. My pulse quickened as a wave of anger washed over me. This wasn't just about my pool anymore. It was about principle. It was about the right to enjoy my own property without being harassed by some power-tripping dictator. As I stayed back at my beautiful, shimmering pool later that day, I ruminated over my options. A petition? Surely tedious. Hiring a lawyer for a fight through endless red tape? The very thought made every bone in my body ache with fatigue. Who wanted to spend months battling this self-important nitwit? And yet, I realized with a growing sense of defiance that I had a better idea, one that was audacious and bold, a way to send a clear message not just to Dick, but to the entire HOA. If they hated my pool for being modern, I needed to take the absurdity to the next level. They wanted traditional. I'd show them traditional, only it would be a full-blown architectural spectacle unlike anything they had ever seen. A slow grin spread across my face as I embraced the challenge. Little did I know, this would spark a revolution in Sunridge Estates, and it would all begin with one rooftop decision that would change the identity of the neighborhood forever. As twilight settled over the community, I began my search. This wouldn't be a mundane patio job. No, I needed architects with a flair for the dramatic. I contacted a firm that specialized in extreme architecture, ones that sculpted gravity-defying pools for the elite. What was once a visceral sense of retribution quickly morphed into an exhilarating game. In the weeks that followed, while I meticulously planned my rooftop pool, complete with glass floors, LED lights, and waterfalls, I could sense the mounting tension in the air. Dick Kensington caught wind of the construction. He came by my house, fuming and incredulous, demanding to know just what enhancements I was making. "Just you wait and see, Dick," I told him with a self-satisfied smirk, a cryptic response that seemed to disquiet him further. Finally, the day of the unveil approached. I prepared to make a splash, not just literally but figuratively, too. The community center buzzed with whispers of anticipation. Dick Kensington's reign was about to be tested in a way he never expected, and it was going to be glorious. As the sun set, illuminating my masterpiece, I took one last look at the ordinary suburban facade of my home. Soon, the world would see it for what it was meant to be, a bold statement against conformity, wrapped in the glow of shimmering water and rebel spirit. The first chapter of my story had just begun, and it was dripping with possibilities. As the sun set, illuminating my masterpiece, I took one last look at the ordinary suburban facade of my home. Soon, the world would see it for what it was meant to be, a bold statement against conformity, wrapped in the glow of shimmering water and rebel spirit. The anticipation in the air felt electric, as if the very neighborhood was holding its breath, wondering what fate awaited them with the grand reveal of my rooftop pool. The following day dawned bright, almost cheering me on in my quest for rebellion. From the moment I stepped outside, I could feel the eyes of the neighborhood upon me. Curiosity piqued, whispers flickered through the air like fireflies. I sensed that deep down, many were rooting for me, though none would admit it aloud in front of Dick Kensington. Construction crews worked tirelessly, their gruff laughter carrying over the sounds of power tools, transforming my roof into an oasis. Each beam that went up felt like a stack of kindling, fueling the fire of defiance. I grinned as I watched them hoist the final panel of glass into place, a stunning blend of elegance and audacity. Yet, I knew Dick would be lurking, plotting his next move as he tightly gripped his gavel like a child clutching a stuffed animal. Unfortunately for him, his authority was slowly crumbling like the remnants of his cherished homeowner's regulations. As the last of the construction crew tied it up, I took a moment to survey the scene from the street below. "Is that a swimming pool?" someone asked incredulously. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the crowd that had gathered behind the safety of lawn chairs. I couldn't help but chuckle. The response I'd hoped for was manifesting, a mix of astonishment and, perhaps, a touch of envy creeping into their voices. And then there he was, Dick Kensington, storming down the street, undoubtedly drawn like a moth to a flame of modern design that mocked his obsession with conformity. He approached, his face turning from mild curiosity to a distinct shade of dark crimson. "Mr. Peterson," he bellowed, each syllable dripping with indignation. "What is the meaning of this outrage?" I feigned innocence, knowing full well my design was sound. "It's an architectural enhancement, Dick, a celebration of modernity and aesthetics." My tone dripped with a playful mockery. "Architectural enhancement," he sputtered, his words clashing with all the calm I exuded. "This is a blatant violation of our neighborhood standards. The height, the aesthetics. It won't stand." "Actually, I consulted all the necessary building codes," I replied, reveling in my confidence. "The city has signed off on it. The permits are as legal as your outdated regulations." His expression was a chaos of shock and rage, the likes of which I wished I could bottle for future enjoyment. But I wasn't about to give him the satisfaction of seeing me flinch. I simply leaned back against the rail of my soon-to-be aquatic paradise and enjoyed the show. What happened next felt like something out of a theatrical performance. Armed with an array of complaints, Dick stammered his way through an impromptu monologue about the community's values and the sanctity of traditional architecture. But with every impassioned sentence, I could see the crowd shifting, their allegiance eroding as they watched me smiling and swimming in the reflection of my shimmering waters. In an act of sheer defiance, I climbed the spiral staircase leading to my roof, stripping down to my swimming trunks while the crowd below gaped in disbelief. I saluted them with a mock seriousness before diving into the clear blue water. The sensation was bliss, coolness wrapping around me as I surfaced with a triumphant grin. This was it, the moment of truth. My neighbors watched in a mix of awe and horror, but it didn't matter. I was free, and Dick Kensington's time as the neighborhood dictator was numbered. With the cheers from the crowd echoing in my ears, I found my rhythm in the water, savoring each stroke. Just as I swam towards the infinity edge, I caught Dick's reflection in the water, a twisted visage of outrage that made me suppress a chuckle. His voice finally cut through the sounds of splashing. "This pool is the end of respectable living in Sunridge Estates." I swirled around to face him, my body buoyed by the water. Respectable living? You mean boring living, right? Who wants dull conformity when you can embrace your individuality? And who knows, this might just spark a renaissance right here in Sunridge. With that, Dick turned on his heel, storming off with the flourish of a badly written villain. The whispers behind him turned into laughter and light-hearted conversations, punctuated by the realization that I had ignited more than just rebellion. I had ignited curiosity, perhaps even longing, for something more vibrant in their own lives. Days turned into weeks, and soon my pool was no longer just a point of contention. It became a symbol of audacity. Neighbors who once only whispered about my antics now popped by for a curious peek, often inquiring about having their own rooftop jewels built. The dynamic began shifting, revealing a profound undercurrent of dissatisfaction that had been brewing beneath the surface of suburban conformity. Feeling the community's shifting energy, I braced myself for my next move, knowing Dick would not sit idly by as his authority crumbled. I had a feeling he was plotting some grand counterattack, but that just added an exhilarating layer of suspense to my otherwise tranquil existence. Little did I know that soon the suburban peace would be shattered again, but this time in the name of rebellion and the thrill of transformation. The sky pool wasn't just about my personal victory. It was becoming a catalyst for change, and I was ready for whatever storm Dick Kensington had brewing on the horizon. After all, if he wanted to fight, I was more than ready to swim. Little did I know that soon the suburban peace would be shattered again, but this time in the name of rebellion and the thrill of transformation. The sky pool wasn't just about my personal victory. It was becoming a catalyst for change, and I was ready for whatever storm Dick Kensington had brewing on the horizon. After all, if he wanted to fight, I was more than ready to swim. As the celebration of my rooftop oasis continued, the residents of Sunridge Estates were buzzing with excitement. The air crackled with potential. Friday evenings became impromptu gathering times, neighbors congregating in their backyards with cocktails and curious glances directed at the phenomenon atop my house. Tensions that once simmered in the stale air of HOA meetings morphed into electric conversations about new architectural possibilities. Amid the laughter and discussions, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending trouble. The unmistakable thud of rubber-clad boots on concrete, the sound of a man ready to wage battle, echoed in my mind. Sure enough, the following Saturday, just as the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting golden hues across our neighborhood, I spotted Dick Kensington approaching my house like the grim harbinger of doom. "Peterson," he called out like a demented marching band leader. The gathering of neighbors turned, their eyes shifting from my glorious pool to the furious man marching toward me. "We need to talk." A hush fell over the crowd. The festive chatter dimmed to whispers. "What now?" someone murmured, and I felt the excitement in the air shift towards apprehension. But I stood tall, knowing I had the upper hand. "Would you like to take this discussion back to my cabana?" I asked, gesturing toward the shaded area I'd set up near the pool for the impending conversations to come. His face flickered with irritation, but he couldn't deny the audience his presence had amassed. "I'm not here to play games, Peterson," he announced, disregarding my playful tone. "This is about more than a simple swimming pool. You're undermining everything our community stands for." "Ah, yes," I nodded slowly, summoning a sardonic smile. "The prestigious ideals of beige conformity and blandness. Whatever would we do without those vital virtues?" The crowd chuckled, emboldened by my sass. Dick's expression twisted in rage, as if I had physically struck him. "This is no laughing matter," he insisted, his eyes wild. "We're going to hold an emergency HOA meeting. I will gather everyone, and we will discuss your ill-conceived roof structure." I took a moment, the tension palpable, allowing the whispers around us to grow. "Count me in," I replied evenly, the thrill of the impending confrontation igniting my passion further. "In fact, I'd love to present the case for my ill-conceived pool myself. It seems only fair, given how much this has captured your attention." He narrowed his eyes, visibly shaken by my defiance. "Just wait, Peterson. I will not let this go." With that, he stormed away, sending ripples of excitement and anticipation through the gathered crowd. Cheers erupted behind him, each one pouring encouragement into my veins. They were excited. They were energized. It felt like we were on the brink of something wonderful. The emergency HOA meeting was scheduled for the following Sunday. As the day loomed, I dove into preparations. I called friends, gathered support, and meticulously crafted a presentation that would highlight the architectural brilliance of my new pool. This wasn't just a fight over aesthetics. It was a battleground for the soul of our neighborhood. When the day arrived, the beige walls of the community center felt more claustrophobic than ever, a stark contrast to my gorgeous blue water. Residents trickled in, scanning the room, their expressions revealing a cocktail of curiosity and anxiety. Dick Kensington, looking disheveled and barely held together, presided over the meeting with his gavel poised like a sword. "Order! Order!" he barked, attempting to quash the rising tide of dissent. But the moment I stood to present, the murmurs exploded like wildfire. "Mr. Peterson has something to say," someone shouted, their voice rising among the concern. I basked in the momentum, feeding off the curiosity that filled the air. "Thank you, everyone, for being here," I began, my heart racing with every nod from familiar faces. "I stand before you not just to defend my beautiful pool, but to propose a new vision for Sunridge Estates. One where individuality isn't just tolerated but celebrated." The crowd murmured, voices rising in curiosity and apprehension, caught between Dick's grip on the HOA and the tantalizing allure of freedom. Imagine, if you will, a community where creativity flourishes, where each home reflects its owner's passions and quirks. Why should we strive to blend into the background when we can create something exceptional? I gestured behind me, revealing a lavish slideshow of architect-designed dream pools, each more magnificent than the last. Lazy rivers, rooftop gardens, even slide-based attractions. The only thing limiting us is our fear of breaking away from conformity. As I spoke, Dick's face twisted like a storm cloud, his frustration mounting, but the crowd was awakening. Their eyes sparkled with possibilities they had never considered before. Your pool, while questionable, has sparked a wave of excitement. Mr. Henderson chimed in, echoing my sentiments with an unexpected hint of support. I nodded vigorously, continuing to build momentum. Imagine how the value of our properties could explode. The internet loves this kind of unusual living. We could be a case study, a symbol of creativity in suburbia. At that moment, the atmosphere shifted, filled with the buzz of newfound ideas. It was intoxicating, a collective yearning for change that grew louder as I addressed concerns about aesthetics and regulations. Let's talk about modern designs that can blend beauty with utility. I'm not asking you to abandon tradition. I'm urging you to redefine it. As the applause rang through the community center, Dick Kensington's gavel fell in desperate response. But this new energy had taken root. "I call for a vote," he shouted, almost pleadingly. But whose vote was it really? Let the people decide. I called back confidently, and the tide of the meeting shifted entirely toward me, fueled by the whispers of support from the very residents who once feared disruption. An impromptu counting began, hands raised, voices chiming in as neighbors chose freedom over conformity. The majority embraced the thrill of creative expression, and the faces of the assembled residents shifted from anxious towards something almost conspiratorial. By the time the meeting concluded, the decision was clear. Change was coming to Sunridge Estates, and I had led the charge. Afterward, as I stepped outside into the warm evening air, a palpable sense of victory washed over me. The whispers of curiosity about rooftop designs transformed into quick arranging of plans. The HOA's rigid stranglehold began to loosen, sparking creativity amongst my neighbors who were eager to join the revolution. But in the shadow of that victory loomed Dick Kensington, retreating into the night, his ambition unsatisfied and his ire blazing like a wildfire. A storm was brewing, and I knew this was only the beginning. As I slid back into the cool embrace of my rooftop pool later that night, I couldn't help but wonder what Dick would plot next. The game was on, and the stakes had never been higher. As I slid back into the cool embrace of my rooftop pool later that night, I couldn't help but wonder what Dick would plot next. The game was on, and the stakes had never been higher. The waves stayed gently around me, each ripple mirroring the turbulent thoughts racing through my mind. I had awakened something profound within our community, a desire to break free from the mold. Yet, with that awakening came the inevitable backlash from someone like Dick Kensington, who thrived on preserving what he believed to be order and conformity. Days passed after the meeting, and the murmurs of change invigorated the neighborhood. New proposals for renovations buzzed around dinner tables, and soon others began to explore their own creative visions. Lush gardens sprouted from previously barren landscapes, and whimsical features took shape that would have been unthinkable just months ago. But not all voices harmonized in favor of change. Dick's personal crusade intensified. I caught wind of whispers suggesting he sought allies within the community who shared his disdain for my radicalism. The HOA meetings shifted from gossip sessions to strategic planning gatherings, recruiting others to rally against innovative transformation. One afternoon, as the sun draped golden light over our small town, I could see Dick standing prominently at the heart of the public park, flanked by a group of like-minded residents. They formed a small, furious army outdoors, contemplating ways to undermine my revolutionary ideas. The sight nagged at me. Bully tactics would not be a suitable challenge to those inspired by passion. "Myra, how about we throw a summer block party?" My neighbor Sarah proposed one evening, her enthusiasm lighting up the dim room we gathered in. "Invite everyone. Celebrate what makes our community unique." I nodded, excitement merging with apprehension. That could be our opportunity to showcase the changes we bring to Sunridge. A way to unite us while showing Dick that he can't scare us back into submission. With a flurry of supportive voices agreeing with Sarah, plans took shape. Food trucks were invited, and games were organized. Art installations were proposed to fill the park with vibrant displays celebrating individual expression, leaving no doubt that boredom and conformity had taken a back seat in the community. But just as we built momentum, whispers of dissent escalated. Conversations turned more hostile as Dick's followers rallied together, repeating mantras from the days of old about maintaining the integrity of Sunridge. "The block party will be a circus, a drunken free-for-all," they scoffed, determined to undermine our unity. I sensed the need for a counter to their conspiratorial darkness. A night before the big event, I called an emergency meeting with our planning team, which now felt like a family of sorts. "Tomorrow, we make a statement." With a sense of purpose, we decorated the park in vibrant colors, hanging lights and streamers like banners waving in the face of oppression. Each corner reflected individual ideas mingled together. Artistic sculptures, personalized booths filled with crafts, and delicious food representing authentic cuisines from all families in our community. As the sun began to set on the day of the block party, the air thickened with excitement and trepidation. Throngs of neighbors arrived, many curious about the spectacle unfolding, and smiles bloomed as the contrasting vibrancy outshone Dick's drab vision of suburban life. The festivities kicked off with visual artists painting murals on large canvases, inviting children and adults alike to add their own touches. Laughter erupted with each game played, and the intoxicating aroma of food wrapped around us like a warm hug. Beneath the cascading fairy lights, people danced to local musicians strumming cheerful tunes. Though the atmosphere felt celebratory, I could sense the lurking tension from across the park. Dick Kensington, a brooding presence amongst his small band of supporters, prowled near the edges of our gathering, keeping a close eye on everything. Every once in a while, I could catch him muttering to a group about the need for order. With festival-goers mingling and enjoying themselves, I decided to approach Dick. As I crossed the vibrant expanse, I braced for the confrontation I knew awaited me. "Mr. Kensington," I greeted him, my voice steady despite the fluttering of nerves. "I can't help but notice how somber you look. Is it hard for you to enjoy the beauty of individuality around you?" His face darkened, the fury bubbling beneath the surface. "This is chaos. You think this is a celebration? It's an invitation to anarchy. Or it's an invitation to freedom," I countered, a fire igniting within me. People deserve the right to express themselves and revel in the joys of creativity. This isn't a fight against order. It's a celebration of unity through diversity. His lips twisted into a snarl. Unity? You think this cacophony brings unity? You're corrupting the very fabric of our community. I think you're forgetting that communities evolve, Dick. I responded, keeping my voice calm despite the intensity of emotion swirling between us. Only through embracing change can we grow stronger. I invite you to see it through our eyes. At that, I turned to glance at the gathering, buoyant laughter spilling around us, the vibrant energy palpable. But Dick remained unmoved, his fists balled in frustration, his determination unfaltering. The evening progressed, and as dusk enveloped the park, I was approached by neighbors eager to voice their support. Dick remained fixated at the periphery, observing, plotting. War simmered between us, cloaked in the joy of the celebration. Suddenly, a commotion erupted at one of the food trucks. I turned to see Dick and his supporters, cornering a vendor who had decorated his truck with colorful designs showcasing movement and creativity. You can't contribute to this madness, Dick exclaimed, his face contorting with self-righteous anger. It was a tipping point. I stepped in, interjecting before the situation escalated. Hold on, I announced, my heart pounding. We are all entitled to be here, to showcase ourselves. Our voices matter, and so do our choices. If you can't respect that, you're the very embodiment of the chaos you fear. The crowd shifted, intrigued and defensive. You won't shred our unity with your attempts at suppression, Dick. Someone chimed in from behind me. His gaze swept the crowd, and what was once a stalemate began to crumble. Discontent rippled through his followers as they eyed one another, unsure about remaining loyal to his rigid ideals while everyone around them thrived on joy, unity, and expression. Just then, under the soft glow of the lights, the unexpected happened. A member from Dick's own group stepped forward. Maybe it's time we embrace this, Dick. We could learn something from the thrill of creativity. Those words were like fireworks exploding. The crowd erupted into applause, echoing like thunder through the summer night. Dick's face paled, clearly aghast at what he perceived as betrayal. Enough, he shouted, but his voice lost its strength among the celebration around him. I won't allow this. But as laughter and acceptance enveloped the park, I could see the tide had shifted. The solidarity among the community held firm, and the revelry outweighed his cries of dissent. Resistance transformed into an unbreakable force of support as even more neighbors joined in, standing shoulder to shoulder, reminders that we would not turn back. That evening, the block party became a turning point. Energy fused like a spell, illuminating the vision for what Sunridge could become. A community built on togetherness, where ideas flowed freely, and the anticipation for change illuminated our path forward. As the festivities continued deep into the night, I could see my fears of backlash fading. Even if Dick remained an obstacle, he could no longer stand alone against the swell of creativity flowing through Sunridge Estates. This battle might not be over yet, and Dick's plans may not have fizzled entirely. But in that moment, as sparks of joy danced around me amidst the laughter and the art, I felt empowered. Together, we were changing the narrative of our community, reinforced by the belief that there was strength in being truly ourselves. With a sense of determination ignited within me, I decided to embrace whatever came next. After all, the beauty of each challenge would be shaped by the resistance we collectively summoned. Above all, I knew one thing was for certain. The waters of change had only just begun to ripple.